Watch The Atheist Experience live Sundays at 4:30 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/ytaxp and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callaxp.
It's time to get sexy on Secular Sexuality.
Hello and welcome to Secular Sexuality, the ACA show all about loving, touching, and squeezing. I'm Christy Powell. My co-host tonight is 2 arms, 2 hands, and 1 heart. Welcome, Nate Smith.
One big heart, Christy. Thanks for having me back again.
Hey, glad to see you. And we are joined tonight by Sundeep Arole, a professional cuddler with Mindful Touch Austin. Welcome, Sundeep.
Glad to be here.
Cool. So tonight we are talking about that touching feeling. Whoa, that cuddly feeling. So give us a call with questions, 512-991-9242. Or at tiny.cc/callsex because the show is cuddling right now.
All right. Well, that sound means that we are starting this week like we do every week with what's turning us on this week. Nate, buddy, I've missed you. What's got you turned on this week?
It's been too long, and I actually have a bit of an update for my last appearance on the show when I talked about hate raids on Twitch. I don't know if y'all remember that. Twitch is a game streaming service. People live stream gameplay most often. And there's been a recent epidemic of hate raids. So people will go on to people's streams and, it's almost always folks on the LGBTQ plus spectrum, and they'll just make lives miserable for these streamers. Well, Twitch just a couple of days ago released a new tool for these streamers. It is a chat verification tool, so you can set your stream to protected, and then people have to actually verify their accounts with a phone number before they're able to chat in your stream. So I gave it to Twitch pretty hard last time I was on the show, and they have done something about it. So I want to give credit where credit's due. This is a step in the right direction, and I was really glad to see this news earlier this week.
Always happy for a social justice boner. Congratulations. Glad that is hopefully getting put back together a little bit. Sundeep, super excited to have you tonight. Super excited to get into this conversation. But before we jump into the interview, let's get the juices flowing a little bit. What's got you turned on this week?
This week I've been turned on. I've been doing for several weeks now this thing that I discovered is Wim Hof breathing. And it's really just something that seems to leave me with a lot of energy, and it's something that I've been sort of doing. I sort of discovered this about a month ago and said, okay, well, I'm going to start doing this and try this regularly. So I've been really excited about it. And so for a long time, there are other components to this. Obviously, it's not just the breathing. There's also the cold exposure and stuff. And for a long time, I said, well, okay, I think I'm happy with just doing the breathing stuff because the cold showers don't bother. But it did happen last week that my water heater failed. So
it kind of forced you into it, huh?
And so I go out and run. I don't have a gym, so I couldn't necessarily go use the idea. So I said, okay, well, sure. It's warm out some of these days. Let me just leave the water. It's not so bad. And after all, I have to start doing this cold exposure thing. So the last few days, that's what I've been taking showers cold. Whether it'll stay that way, I don't know. uh, I I do seem to feel more energized. I mean, if that's because of just kind of the shock of coming out of the cold shower and feeling it, or whether it's really something going on, I don't know. But certainly the Wim Hof breathing is pretty powerful stuff. I'll
Yeah,
recommend that.
breathing, meditation, cold exposure to I guess increase vasodilation. Some very interesting preliminary research. I'll be really curious to kind of follow and see if this is just like kind of warmed over Kellogg type uh, pseudoscience or something that is really effective. It seems like there are a bunch of kind of large scale studies in process, so that's a really interesting thing to keep an eye on, and glad something that you're having a interesting experience with. Thanks for bringing it to us.
Yeah, thank you.
But let's jump right into the interview, because this is, as I was telling you before the show, is something that I have been wanting to talk about on this show. Like, really, one of the first things that we talked about when we decided we wanted to do a show. I sat down with Megan Bonner, my incredible co-host, when we first got started. We made a list of like 30 people that we were hoping to find someday. By the way, if you are watching this and you are a former pageant contestant or a Hooters waitress, I'm still eager to hear your story. So please write in, because I would love to do that episode. But on that list was a professional cuddler. And so I'm super excited to learn a little bit more about this practice and what it may have to offer to our audience. So, Sundeep, I'm going to let you take it away. What the hell is a professional cuddler? I mean, what kind of services do you offer?
Yeah. So professional cuddler is someone who has gone and done some training around how to offer touch as a means of therapy.
Mm,
Touch means cuddling, holding people, and typically this training will involve things like establishing boundaries, maintaining boundaries, communicating them, uh, training around consent, all of those kinds of things that you'd want to know if you are going to be doing this and offering this kind of touch with that. So I do sessions. I work with people one on one. That's not my primary business, though. I do I do events called Cuddle Party, which is a
hmm
different training, and these are sort of group events. They're essentially like group cuddle events, but in some sense, they're a group therapy event. So and people come and we start with a workshop where we go through this whole idea of we work on how to say no. We practice how to say yes. We go through the having boundaries. We go through the process of asking what it is that you want. We kind of practice all of those things, and that's kind of the workshop part of it. We go over the idea what the rules are for the event. It's not, this is cuddling where you're actually holding people, but there is no sexual charge associated with it. These are platonic, fully clothed sessions, and cuddle parties also the same way. Uh, and I offer those two things, and mostly I offer cuddle party events. I try to do one every month. It has been difficult in the pandemic. I've not been able
sure.
to do one every month, but I've almost uh, put some events on the calendar, and I had to cancel them simply because, well, we went back to
Yeah,
stage
no
5
doubt.
again. So I don't know if I'll be able to do one soon, but I was not able to do one, for example, in the month of September.
hmm Yeah, well, as important as physical touch is, and as much as modern neuroscience seems to be beginning to understand the significance and the importance of touch, as a sex therapist, I'm just excited to hear that there are trained professionals that are talking about boundary communication and talking about consent and all of these things when it comes to our physical touch. What can you teach the audience tonight about the importance of touch, or perhaps how to better experience touch with their partner or with their friend?
Yeah, so this is important. Of course, touch is a basic need. I mean, we all need touch. We sort of know this. I mean, we're born with a sense of touch, and uh, if we are not touched as children, we don't thrive. We kind of known this stuff in various studies. One particular study that was done in from in the Romanian orphanages, exactly this. They were understaffed, and they just didn't have the people to give love, care, and touch to the children, and those children didn't fare so well. Uh, the so we may need touch at different and in different magnitudes of touch. Everybody's needs are different, but touch itself is an essential thing. So, if you have a partner or a friend, I think the thing to do is to communicate what it is that their needs are. We have kind of built ourselves a society where after a certain age, all touch is considered sexual, and we sort of associated sex with touch. And does it have to be that? So you can talk to a partner, does touch have to end that way, right? What does touch mean? Can touch be something that they, can be just a means in itself? So you can kind of have those conversations. How much touch does your partner need? What kind of touch do they enjoy? Do they like to have their hair played with? You can experiment and try different forms of touch on your partner and see, what is pleasant, um, uh, knowing that it doesn't necessarily have to end up in a sexual place, right? What feels good. And so you can have those conversations, and you can uh, discuss what it is that your partner wants. What, and sometimes your needs may be different around touch, and you may at that point have to say, okay, well, I need more touch than you enjoy having, and is there a way uh, we can we can have we can have what we both need as a relationship. So having those conversations is, I think, one of the main things to actually start enjoying it. And I would say also incorporating it in your daily life. Just kind of do this. We it could be just holding hands, sitting together, watching TV. It could be the occasional hug, brushing by, or it could just be kind of the cuddling, the playing with somebody's hair, or uh, giving somebody a massage or whatever. Uh, while you're sitting down and doing other things. So that's a conversation that I will encourage any partners to have.
Yeah, I have to say, perhaps the most maybe rebellious is even the term. The most powerful thing about the idea of a cuddle party in a nation like America is just the concept that touch doesn't necessarily need to be sexual, or doesn't necessarily even need to be intimate to still be appropriate and to still be significant. I mean, there's something like really transgressive about that idea in our culture, and it's definitely something I'm fascinated by. Uh, who is your ideal client? What type of person is coming to a cuddle party or is reaching out for like an individual session?
Okay, so an ideal client uh, is obviously someone who has researched what they want. They said, okay, this is a touch that's missing in my life. This is what I want. I just want to be held in a certain way, right? And I don't want, I I I miss this touch. I used to be held this way, and I don't have that, and I need that right now. So the ideal client will come with a definite idea of what they want, what kind of touch they need, and ask for it, right? But being able to ask for it is kind of what makes it ideal. Say, I need this. I really need my head massaged or my scalp massaged a little bit. Can you do that for me? Right. So there is the client comes empowered with that thing that I can ask for that. Now, not everybody is comfortable with touch at the same level, right? And so when somebody comes to me for a session, I accept everybody. I mean, I accept men, I accept women, obviously, all ages, adults and up. But so I don't, so some people can come and say, look, I don't know what I need, but I know that I don't enjoy being touched.
Mm.
Or some people can say, I don't know if this has anything for me here, but I want to be able to enjoy touch more because it affects my social interactions when I go somewhere, and I feel triggered around this whole idea of touch. So at that point, they that client, you know, is the job of the cuddle therapist is to transform that into the ideal client, right?
Mm.
You work with um, somebody saying my camera is off, and I don't know what to do about that. But so you transform. I mean, how do you do that? Well, you start slowly and say, okay, well, you don't like touch, but how about if we hold hands? How does that feel? Right? And you go through this process of trying different forms and different levels of touch, different types of touch, and do a somatic exploration or guide someone through that. How does that feel within your body? Where are you feeling this? What what issues is that triggering for you? Is there some, and you kind of work through that until, say, the client is more comfortable in this kind of touch. They maybe somebody has social anxiety, social phobia. They don't, they're not comfortable with asking for what they need,
Mm-hmm.
or they're not comfortable with saying, no, I don't want to be touched this way. No. So somebody might come to a cuddle session and get a chance to work on those boundaries. Say, look, this is what I need. This is what I want. I am a yes to this. I am a no to this, and they get to work on it. And we work on these things in Cuddle Party. Uh, we work on these things obviously in individual sessions, individual level, but we certainly do work on them in Cuddle Party. We actually practice them, and we practice the process of asking for the touch we need, and we practice saying yes, we practice saying no, practice changing our mind. So we actually practice building good boundaries in communication, which provides a framework to enjoy healthy touch.
Yeah,
That's
so
pretty
empowering
cool. You
people
kind of
through
like,
boundary communication. Yeah, Nate.
yeah. Sorry, Christy. I was just that's kind of neat how you ease them into that and sort of dip their toes in the water. And for me, I can certainly identify with that because I would definitely need quite a bit of dipping my toe into the cuddle water before could feel comfortable at a cuddle party. But I wanted to interject here with a quick question of my own, because I was reading. Okay, I'll admit it. I was reading Christie's research, which was excellent for leading up to this show,
And
and
available in the show notes.
yeah, links in the show notes, folks. But when it comes to the non-sexual nature of the cuddle parties that you do and the connection that most of us have with touch and arousal, I wanted to ask you, like, how often does that come up in the party? I mean, it must come up sometimes, like someone gets turned on. Does that happen as often as folks might think? And if and when it does, how do you deal with it? What do you do about it?
Right? We actually talk about it, and
Okay.
liking people, arousal, these feelings are natural. We welcome them. There is no shame associated with any sort of response that's sexual, but we do ask that we don't act on those things, right? Uh, the clothes stay on. Everything is not sexual. So what does that mean? Well, if you feel that you're being aroused, well, you can
Hmm.
ask to shift positions. You can ask for a different kind of touch. Um, so there are a number of ways to do that, but it's important that we don't associate any shame with these things because they are natural things that happen, and that it is part of touch. We are sexual beings, and we are going to have feelings like that. So
Hmm.
and but there are lots of the I mean I tell people the story about what happened to me going to a cuddle party.
Oh, good. I can't wait.
Right, for the first time and discover, and I sort of shared this.
Okay.
I had quite a bit of social phobia. I also, it had received a fair bit of unwanted touch
Mhm.
in sort of earlier on in life. Uh, and so for me, that was a big trigger. If a man would come and touch me, it suddenly took me to a place where, oh, geez, that touch was not appropriate when it was touched by a man. That point, and so it sort of had this place where I just had this real weirdness about somebody. So if somebody said they were gay, I just had this sort of weird reaction about, oh, geez, you know, I know what happened to me, and I didn't ever go to cuddle party to try to fix that necessarily, but
Hmm.
I went there and the man said, "Would you like a hug?" I'm like, yeah, this is a safe place. We've talked about this. We talk about the boundaries. There's no sexual anything here. Let me try this. Why am I feeling so weird about this? I want to try this. I want to try giving this man a hug and sharing that, right? And it was weird at the beginning, but then it wasn't so weird after a while. It wasn't, and now it's something that I would regularly do, and I realized, geez, you know, all this time in my life just because of something that happened in childhood, because I've been carrying just this entire uh, atmosphere of just making so essentially an irrational judgment, and I didn't need to
Hmm.
have that. I didn't need to have that all my life going through. And so I credit Cuddle Party with one of the places
Wow.
where I think I recognized that, and it was it was something that I didn't necessarily go to Cuddle Party to say, "Hey, fix
Right. I
you know
gotcha.
fix my
Yeah.
fear,
Well,
fix my
it's
fear
a
of
simple enough thing.
homosexuality." It happened, right? But that's exactly what happened, and I said,
Wow.
I need to learn how to do this.
Yeah,
How to
Yeah.
do
it's a
this.
simple enough thing, and I think that the temptation in our culture is to intellectualize it and be like, "Well, how powerful can one hug really be? Like, what could this really do? What's going to happen here that I haven't already experienced 1,000 times?" But I can't stress enough the significance of actually going through the motions, of actually being touched in a safe environment and being able to kind of retrain your body that this is okay, that this is safe,
Mhm,
that this is not
Hmm.
something that you need to be triggered by. Certainly, I'm sure that y'all are very sensitive to people's traumas and concerns in that way.
mhm.
I mean, what kind of extreme reactions do people sometimes have in these situations?
Uh, so well, so I haven't. So it doesn't usually the cuddle party we make it a big effort to make it a very safe container, and so people may have extreme reactions. Uh, that can happen. But one of the things we make very clear right in the beginning, uh, when we do this welcome circle, what we call the welcome circle, is you do not have to touch anybody at all. You don't have to do anything at a cuddle party. You can sit there in the corner and watch if that's all you want to do, right? And so there is that component of safety. So if somebody feels that they get triggered and they just need space to work through their emotions, nobody is going to pass any judgment on somebody who decides to say, I want to sit in that corner and I just need to process what's
Hmm.
going on with me. We allow people uh, that opportunity, and then they can go have some snacks or do whatever. They don't have to necessarily be participating. Just because you're at a cuddle party doesn't mean you participate in the cuddling. And sometimes, you know saying no is a very powerful thing to
Hmm.
learn as well. I myself haven't done it, but I've heard of stories where somebody went to a couple party and they said no to every request they got. Would you like a hug? No. Would you like this? No. And the thing was, I'm just going to say no to everything because I want to feel empowered to be able to say, no, I don't want that.
Yeah, that's another thing that I
Yeah.
can't stress enough the value of actually going through the motions, because it seems intellectually like it's so easy to just say no, but to actually do the thing is
Mhm.
incredibly empowering.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, that's kind of like the whole basis of cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Is you kind of fake it till you make it, right? You go through the motions and you do it, and then it gets ingrained in your head and you feel
And you have
better.
to do the behavioral, right?
Yeah,
Like
like you
that's
actually have to
part of
do
it.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's so easy
Wow.
to talk ourselves out of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Well,
I'm curious though. Like, I'm sorry, I keep
no,
interrupting
no, no, no,
Christie's
go ahead.
interview with my questions, but
Sure.
like how many people are in this group? Is it usually like one-on-one huggers? Is it everybody sort of sitting together in pajamas with like a big group hug? Like, how does that take shape? I
We
want to know more
do,
about that.
right. So we do group hugs, we do things like that, but a lot of people can actually cuddle one on one. You go to someone and you say, hey, I would like to explore this touch with you. Would you like that? So a lot of people, most of the time, the cuddling is one on one. Sometimes two or three people might just kind of cuddle in a pile.
Right.
That's also people
Huh.
there are cases where people just kind of lie down next to each other, and it's what in some ways whatever you want to do, um, you know, within the boundaries of the cuddle party container, which is that
Hmm.
you have to keep it non-sexual, and you have to ask permission before you touch someone, and uh, and then we go through a lot of rules about just taking care of yourself. If if you don't want to be in a cuddle situation, you can change your mind at any time and say, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to stop this, and go and try something else. So we allow people. We go through all of that uh, process of what somebody, how somebody communicates what their needs are, um, right in the beginning.
Do you have
Cool.
experiences of people pushing back against some of those boundaries around consent or non-sexuality or these kinds of things?
I've heard that it happens. I have never had a situation where I have had to I've had to talk to somebody at a cuddle party about being inappropriate or ask them to leave or any of those things. That has not happened. Uh, they People show up. I mean, they sign up for this event. Uh, they usually every kind of their name is out there. It's not like, I mean, they usually come. They come with good intentions. They come
Right.
because they actually want an experience where they can uh, be cuddled, be held, get their touch needs met, uh, and It's something. It's actually a good place. I tell people, it's also a good place to come and meet people. It's way better than speed dating. You get much more time with someone if you want to do that. I mean, if that's what you want to do.
Fair to say.
It's a good point. Good point.
What does training or certification or oversight look like for professional cuddlers?
Okay, so there is. So I can talk about. I guess I can talk about Cuddle Party. If you talk about Cuddle Party, that is a national kind of movement. It's a brand. It's an
So
organization.
that's a specific
That
organization,
that's a.
Cuddle Party.
It's an organization, Cuddle Party, and they train people to facilitate Cuddle Party events. The training typically for that, I had to do like a workshop that was about 3 days. It was in person, and it was intensive. It was really general and about how to facilitate groups, right? And any kind of group, not necessarily Cuddle Party. And after that, you go through about a 6 month process, maybe in a year. Uh, I took my time doing it, but where you have weekly calls with a mentor, and they will guide you through actually organizing, putting up, and facilitating a number of review parties, what they call. And these review parties, they are just like a cuddle party, anything else, except that at the end you ask the participants to fill out a feedback form, and that feedback form goes directly to the cuddle party certifying board. That it becomes part of your certification requirements. So they look at those things and they give you feedback saying, okay, this was good. You had enough people, and these were the comments that we got. So, um, so it's a fairly uniform thing, and it's a fairly strict thing that they go through. And this is simply because if you go to any place that's called a cuddle party, any event that uses the cuddle party name, it
Mhm.
will have a similar format. We all have the same sort of container of safety right in the beginning, so people kind of know what they're getting. So that's a good thing. Now, for someone who wants to be a professional cuddler, there's no regulation in this industry. I could sort of hang a shingle and say I'm a professional cuddler
Sure.
without any training. And there are lots of people possibly doing this. There are organizations that actually go through uh, actually training, offering training for people who want to do this work. There are a few reputable organizations, and then there are, there are several of them. But I think if you want to find somebody who's a one-on-one cuddler, you want to ask them what their experience is, where they got trained, who trained them. A good training will involve communication. It would involve boundaries. It would teach on how to establish boundaries, maintain them, and also how to communicate those boundaries. It will be some, though it'll certainly have training around consent as to how you want to make sure that you ask for permission before you give or receive any touch, and that permission is asked for you, and that you communicate that. There will be training. There'll be some training around trauma, and at least some basic understanding of trauma. We're not trauma therapists anyway, but you need to understand that what I'm dealing with is a situation where now somebody needs to go see a specialist, like a trauma therapist or someone else, right? So, and we need to understand, the idea that touch can just you can't just do any kind of touch. For some people, something can be triggering,
Mm.
and so you have to be careful how you approach that. And so there will be any training will have training around a little bit around understanding what that trauma response is. Typically, they'll go through other forms of training, like how to do what kind of what would a session protocol look like, something like that. There will be some discussion about diversity, inclusion, uh, those kinds of things. There might be some training around marketing and things like that. But the most part, those are sort of the components of training. I got training through an organization called Cuddlist. It's certainly not the only one, but I can say if somebody wants to get training, that's a reputable place. But there are certainly others.
Cuddlist?
Cuddlist,
Okay.
cuddlist.com. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Well, Nate, would you like to take a moment to dip into the mailbag tonight?
Well, against your better judgment, yeah, I think we will.
Sure.
And
What do you have for us?
let me just preface this this mailbag topic by saying that we don't control the letters that we get from you folks. We read every single one. We love every single one. And we are aware of the of how odd it might seem to have three men commenting on the topic that we're about to talk about. But hey, you know what? You send it to us, and we will take a bite of that apple. Okay,
And just do our best.
yeah, we are going to do our best. So, Blues writes in for us, and Blues wants to know if we know if menopause can affect sex drive. Can it affect gender expression? Can it affect emotionality? Can it affect your sexual orientation? For my part, I guess I'll go first. For my part, anecdotally from my family, I can certainly say that I've been told it does affect sex drive. It does affect emotionality. I think anytime that there's a change in your brain, in the chemicals in your brain, it's absolutely to be expected that that's going to express itself in some way or another. So yeah, I think it's completely reasonable that it could affect things like sex drive, mental acuity, emotionality, as she asks, as they ask. As for sexual orientation, gender expression, I think that when you're in a period of change, it's reasonable to assume that you might be open to different parts of yourself or rediscovery of parts of yourself that you may not have really sunk your teeth into before. So yeah, maybe. And if it's affecting your well-being, then it's okay to seek help for it. So I will again, Blues, if you're watching, you can always look up the Secular Therapy Project. I'm sure somebody's going to throw that in the chat there. And you can find yourself help. You can find someone who's going to give you good help, professional help, and it is going to be secular help, which is what we're all about here. What do you think, Christy?
Yeah, no, I think all that's well said. Like, I don't want to make it sound as if I there's like a whole epidemic of people hitting menopause and then suddenly discovering, something about their sexuality or their gender that was never there. But can a massive shift in your hormones affect your sexual desire, your sexual orientation, or your gender expression? Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
changes in your hormones can affect everything about you. Now, I don't
absolutely.
think, like, I think you said it really well, Nate. Like, it perhaps would empower somebody to maybe unlock or experience a different side of themselves. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's changing your gender, but I absolutely can appreciate the fact that a lot of people maybe experience their bodies in new ways or different ways. Perhaps they feel different about themselves. Perhaps they feel more empowered. Perhaps they feel more skittish. And that's going to come out in a number of different ways. So, I am really curious what is sort of behind Blue's question. They end their letter by saying, I feel broken. And I guess I would just say that that's a heartbreaking thought. I recognize that this can be a really challenging experience for a lot of people. And yeah, it could be sort of pushing or nudging on or opening or shifting certain parts of yourself. But there are great forms of support whether those are hormone replacement therapies or working through talk therapy or a number of different things. And I hope that Blue isn't suffering in silence, I suppose.
I don't think Blue is suffering alone because Blue reached out to us, and I hope Blue is watching tonight and Blue knows that we're glad that you reached out. You're not alone. We're always happy to talk, and if you feel that you can call in and talk, we would love to talk some more about this. But I want to throw this over to Sundeep. What do you think?
This is this is a sort of tricky question for me, partly because I don't know.
Sure.
I can claim that I don't know, but then
It's okay. As a skeptic, you are allowed to say I don't know.
I can say that I don't know, and yeah, I think that's all I will say about it right now because I don't know.
Yeah, well, fair enough. And Nate, you already said it, but I do want to, I guess, acknowledge the hubris of three non-menstruators weighing in here. But just to say, we did cover menstruation in a good bit of detail just about this time last year. I'll make sure to have that episode available in the show notes, and you can hear about it from something more of an expert in Dr. Anna. So. But beyond that, I do want to remind people that we do have lines open and we'd love to hear from you. We're here at 512-991-9242. And we hope that you'll give us a call. But in the meantime, let's take a look around the ACA and see what's going on some of the other shows on the Atheist Experience Network.
They were like, oh, like anyone can really go that long without sex. And I'm like, y'all are not going to die for not having sex.
We're holding an event in a hotel that is rumored to be haunted. Somebody reported that a ghost crawled into bed with her and had sex with her. I don't want that to happen. And not that I think it's likely, but it just makes me I feel a little uneasy.
If you're not getting yourself vaccinated, you can have issues with your reproductive cycle. So, ladies, gentlemen, take care of your baby ovens. Take care of your wee-wees, folks. Get the shot.
Get involved, get on that list, get read out. Maybe if you have a funny name, you'll become the honorable mention.
Unless it's like mayonnaise 55, then don't do it.
Yeah, you call.
Let's not curse each other out. That's unnecessary.
How about you stop telling me what language I can use on my show, and you learn how to have a conversation where you acknowledge point and stop trying to dodge.
Always a good time. So much good work out there.
I love that highlight reel. I think it was a stroke of genius. And ex-Christian Aaron, who is one of the newer hosts of Truth Wanted, will also be featured on the Nonprofits this Sunday with yours truly. So tune in Sunday, folks. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a banger.
Shameless plug.
I know. Well, we're allowed to plug other ACA projects, I'm told. So if and anytime you get Jenna Miu and Laura McGee and myself, and apparently ex-Christian Aaron too, and you get us together, it's going to be a banger of a show, folks.
Yeah, you better show up. That is a fierce cast of characters. So good on you. Good work if you can get it, I suppose.
Amen.
Speaking of good work, Sundeep, what are some of the benefits of working with a professional cuddler? I mean, we've talked about boundaries. We've talked about maybe a sense of empowerment, but I'm wondering if somebody is listening to this, like what perhaps could you offer them? What kind of change could they maybe see through these sorts of therapies?
Well, so for one, so I guess I can share my own example.
Sure.
There was a point in time when I decided I wanted cuddle therapy, and I had just gotten out of a marriage that hadn't worked well. It was for a long time, 19 years, and I felt pretty much defeated in my life, and I wanted to you know I felt that there was really, I just was feeling that there was not the touch that I needed in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I could go out and try to meet other people, but if I had any relationships, I would kind of approach that, uh, and my neediness in that whole situation would be very, very apparent. And I knew that I didn't want to be in that situation where I would kind of put that, and I decided I'm going to go get sessions from a professional, simply because I feel I have those touch needs. I would like to feel held. I don't want to be in that situation where I'm out there, I'm trying to, you know, approach people in this kind of state where, clearly I appear needy, and I appear like some kind of from a place where I could essentially cling to people. I didn't want that, right? And so for me, that was a reason why I decided I wanted to go get sessions. Now, there are other reasons why somebody won't want to come. Sometimes, as we've talked about, people have received unwanted touch or other kinds of trauma. There might be trauma, there might be injury, and people do not know if touch is something that they enjoy at all. Why is it that they don't enjoy it? And why is it that the fact that they don't enjoy it, um, they know that the fact that they don't enjoy it causes problems in their lives, in their own lives, and in their relationships as well, right? So they want to learn the language around how to communicate what their needs are with people in their life, with their partners or family or friends. So they might come to a cuddle therapist to do that. Some people might want to just explore, what is it that is actually pleasurable for me, and then I can go ask for it. So to explore something like that, somebody might want to come to a cuddle therapist because they have a session, they know it does not have the sexual charge associated with just going and meeting some random person. Uh, so they want to be able to explore in that environment safely, and they will come to a club therapist for that. Uh, they some people just need to be in a place where they can go get their touch needs met, and not have to say, okay, well, now somebody else held me this time, so I owe them now. They don't have they don't have they don't have they don't have the ability. They're at a point where in their lives they don't have the ability to hold space for anybody else. They just kind of want to go. They just want to get held. They just want to get their needs met. And when the session is done, the session is done, and that's it. So a lot of people will come for that reason as well. So
Yeah, it
there are a number
definitely
of
makes
reasons.
sense to me that folks that are feeling touch starved would be interested in a cuddle party or working with a professional. But I guess I'm curious how a professional session might benefit somebody differently than like a more conventional experience. I mean, somebody who is partnered or has access to touch, what would they possibly learn or benefit from working with a professional?
Okay, so if we are, so you specifically talked about somebody who is partnered, and we can talk about that. So we can maybe talk about that first. So you might be partnered with somebody, and you may still not be happy with the touch you're receiving,
Sure.
right? It may be that your partner just kind of touches you, and it's always, it becomes sexual, and you don't want that, right? It may also be the case that you are not getting enough touch. So there are a lot of reasons. You might want to learn the language that you might want to say, look, can I ask you for this? this kind of touch, and you want to know what that kind of touch is that makes you feel safe, makes you feel comfortable, and know, oh no, geez, I know where this is going to go now. It's touching me this way, so I know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and you don't feel safe in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so how, so you can go to a cuddle therapist or a cuddle session and work through that, exactly that sort of an issue, and learn the boundaries, learn the kind of touch you want, uh, and essentially form the language that you need to have to communicate with someone about what your needs are around touch. Um, and it may also be the case that for people, not everybody has the same needs around touch. It's not everybody's love language at all, right? For some people it is touch, for some people it's other things. So you could be partnered and you could be in a relationship, but you may still not be getting the touch that you really need, right? And that's affecting your daily life, and it's affecting your relationship with your partner. So you may actually want to see, okay, can I now go to a cuddle therapist and really get held in a certain way just for that hour? So it's my time off. And so I don't have to burden my partner to provide me with this, because my partner doesn't necessarily enjoy providing me with this, is not capable of providing me with this, or is not something that he really wants to, or she really wants to, right? So all of those reasons, somebody can say, this is one reason why I would want to go uh, s- explore touch with a cuddle therapist. The other reason is quite simply, if you want to work through some specific trauma that you might have around touch. I don't, say that you feel triggered when certain kinds of touch happen. The, the cuddle therapist is trained enough to do that touch in a very slow, very calibrated manner, so that you can then be led into a somatic exploration of what it is that you're feeling about it. We're not doing therapy. That's not what we are. But we can certainly allow the feelings to come out, and allow the feelings to be explored. So that needs to be, and so that's one reason why somebody might want to go to a therapist to do this.
Well, I've read that most professional cuddlers are women and that clients are majority middle-aged men. Has that been your experience? And, what, if anything, can we make from that?
Uh, so so this is a question. Obviously, my experience is different, being
Sure.
that I'm a man, and people who come see me for one-on-one sessions, or otherwise, they want to cuddle men. So in my case, that's women, and in that case, there may be men. Not everybody wants to just cuddle women, right? I mean, not and so and not everybody wants to cuddle men, but Uh, so I did reach out to a colleague uh, who is a female cuddle professional, also a cuddlist professional, um, and asked exactly what is this. And in fact, I think it is the case that most of our clients are middle-aged men. So it's sort of funny. My clients happen to be, for the most part, middle-aged or older women, uh, and to some extent men, uh, some gay men, for example. But it seems that men have less opportunities to get and receive touch in their lives. I mean, it, when a group of men go out together at a bar and have a few drinks, they don't start the night hugging each other or having
Typically not. Yeah,
holding each
typically
Yeah,
other's
not in
hand
this
or any
culture.
of that. We
It's
don't do
true.
that, right?
Yeah.
But women are able to get those needs met through the groups that they have with other women, right? They can do that, and they have a lot of opportunities to accept or to they have a lot of opportunities to have access to touch, that men don't. That might be part of the reason for it. Uh, I think it's mostly societal norms that have said, men uh, typically they want touch. Uh, you know, uh, oftentimes that gets in our society translates to men want sex, and that may be the case, but that may also not be the case, right? Uh, some of them might just want to be held in healing, and sometimes men seek a professional cuddler to to get that touch. I mean, because that's what they need, or they feel that that's such an important need in their life that's not being met, that is keeping them from doing other things that they want to do in their life effectively. And that was certainly my case. I got out of a relationship. I suddenly realized that there was this deep need there, and as long as it was there, it was going to keep me from functioning normally in a lot of areas in my life, and I didn't want that situation to happen. And so a lot of times men seek therapy for that reason, because they don't necessarily have uh, that same level of access to touch. So that is true. As far as why most professional cuddlers are women, well, uh, that may be because if most of the clients are middle-aged men, they might want to be seeking out women to cuddle with, and maybe that's part of the reason. But I think it's a helping profession, and it's not something that it's just something that women do well and do very well.
Sure. I mean,
And
as a male
it's unusual.
therapist, I definitely recognize sort of the irony of me asking a male cuddler about, female dominated helping professions. Like I see that.
Yeah.
We're doing our best though, folks.
Well, I'm interested to know, we've talked about boundaries, and we've talked about these different things that happen in these events. But I'm really curious if there is anything maybe unique about studying touch with like a trained expert professional. I don't know if you have any particular cuddle tips for our audience tonight, or if there is something perhaps unique about actually like studying this language of touch around pressure or around different body areas, or anything at all that maybe the audience at home isn't really aware of in their daily lives.
Right. That's also possible when you go to a cuddle therapist and you go for a session, or even at a cuddle party. To some extent, you are in control, and you can ask, can I explore how it feels like for my toes to be pulled? Or can I explore how it feels like for the middle of my toes to be massaged, right? And you can explore those things, and those things might be weird to explore with, say, a partner. Like, well, what is this? Is this some kind of fetish or what? Right? So there's lots of things that you can do when you are sort of in control of a session and say, I want to do this. And you can do exploration with someone like that. You can, I mean, and we've already talked about this, that you can learn the language around asking for the kind of touch that comforts you. And you can learn the language. You can discover the kind of touch that will comfort you, but you can also develop the language around asking for it. You can also recognize, what kinds of things you might be able to do that your partner would benefit from and really enjoy. And then that could potentially help that relationship grow. So um, those are some examples. But a cuddle session isn't, you can sit there and just cuddle the whole time. That's it. But you can also sit there, and it's a place where you can talk about talk about what's going on in your life. This is not a therapy session by any means, but certainly a cuddle therapist is someone who's trained to hold space. And so if you're working through emotions or something going on in your life, uh, uh, you can go for you can go for a cuddle session to be comforted while somebody is just hearing you out, or allowing you to process whatever emotions come up for you. So in that sense, then it's a cuddle session, but it's also a session where you are actually working uh, on something that's going on in your life. So it it doesn't it doesn't have to be touch. It could be a conversation. It could be, it could be any number of things. You could play a game. You could just go out for a walk. You can do all number of things with a cuddle therapist, and really just kind of have that time. It's your time, that you can do what you want to do.
Yeah, I want to be so mindful to not conflate things. And I recognize that we are talking about platonic touch, but I just can't help but notice how remarkably similar that answer is. Both parts of it, the aspect of being able to like kind of specifically ask for what you want, and the fact that the entire experience can be just the physical act, or it can be sort of the conversation and some of the things around that. I can't help but notice how similar your response is to when we talked to Alice Little, a professional escort working at a bunny ranch, and just the way that these helping professions empower people to maybe have a slightly different experience than what they would see at home.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, it's really, well, I guess it's certainly cuddle therapy, but in the end, it's really a, a block of time which kind of belongs to you, and
Mhm.
where somebody is trained to hold that space for whatever it is that you're going through. Um, yeah, you may and you have a chance to explore things, a chance to kind of explore. Geez, I I I miss that we just don't have a conversation. We,
Mm.
me and my partner, we touch and we have sex. That's it, but we don't have conversation at the end.
Mhm.
You know, maybe I can come and have conversation, or I can learn how to have that conversation and try to not just make it that, so I can improve that in my life. So those types of things are
Mhm.
are some things you can work on. Yes.
Yeah, well, you mentioned a little bit about the like certification process and those kinds of things. But
Mhm.
do you have any tips for how someone can go about finding or hiring a professional cuddler?
Yeah, so yes. So you can find one. There are several places online. Uh, it's again one of those things. You can find one. So for example, like I got trained by Cuddlist, and they have several cuddlers that listed on there. Incidentally, I'm not listed on there, simply because I don't have a primary business where I do cuddle sessions for a living,
Mm.
and so just decided that I don't need to necessarily be listed on there, and so I'm not. But there are there are other websites where people are listed, uh, that say, okay, I provide cuddle services, I provide this. But regardless of where you find them, you do need to ask questions about what their training looks like, where they got their training, what sort of experience do they have, did they have to actually do a few review sessions or something to be actually certified. Those are kind of important questions. One question that I think will tell you a lot is, do you cuddle only men? Do you cuddle only women? Or do you cuddle everybody?
Yeah.
And a professional cuddler with professional training will almost always say, no, I accept all people,
Mhm.
orientation. So, i- in some ways, that's a good question. I think somebody can say, okay, I'm going to ask that, because because then there is a good chance that you know that they actually went through some training to be able to say, I am going to do that, because any good training will have a discussion of diversity or inclusion or anything else. So that's one thing that might distinguish from someone from just saying, oh, I would like to cuddle people, I'm a professional cuddler, versus somebody who has actually done the training around boundaries, consent, holding space, and all of those things. And that training is actually important, particularly if you're trying to work through some specific trauma that you might have around touch. It's particularly important to have that training if you're actually trying to go for a session so you can work through some feelings that arise within you when you're touched in a certain way. It's particularly important when you are going for a session where you actually want to explore specific touch and what it is doing to you. And it may not be as important if you know exactly what you want and you say, I just want to be spooned for an hour and that's it. It may not be as important, but it is certainly important in the cases where you have a specific reason why you need to go see a professional cuddler, and that professional cuddler means somebody with the training to be able to do this professionally.
Yeah, so to that end, I mean, a lot of that is good advice for how to find somebody who is like reliable and professional. But do you have any tips or tricks for finding somebody that is like the right professional for you? Somebody who, lines up with your specific, I guess, interest or emotional needs here?
Uh, yeah, so I think a lot of that, a lot of that is obviously the kind of vibe that you get from talking to someone and looking at someone. So I guess in that sense, it's like anything else that you'd find online, the way you'd find any kind of professional. It's really, do I like the story? And most professional cuddlers will have some sort of bio. This is the stuff I like to do, or and almost everybody who's professional and has gone through training will also offer a free consultation for 15 or 30 minutes. You can talk to them on the phone and they can tell you specifically the kinds of things they do. And you may want to, you may have to go through a few sessions and try it out. The Cuddle Party facilitators are all listed on the Cuddle Party website, cuddleparty.com. Some of them have training in doing one-on-one sessions. Some of them don't. But for example, I have training, but I do a very limited number of sessions. This is sort of a secondary job for me. I have say 4 hours every week that I will put aside to do sessions, if that, and some of those aren't necessarily booked because I don't necessarily market that. But you can certainly talk to the facilitators and see if any of them have training in actually doing cuddle therapy one-on-one sessions. You can talk to them, and there that at least you're pretty sure that somebody who you're talking to has training in facilitating a cuddle party group, and you do know that that training is reliable, right? So you can certainly have that conversation with them. The chances are, if you go through a reputable somebody who trained through a reputable organization like Cuddlist, you might find someone who at least has the basics. Now, whether you vibe, I mean, I had to go do several trial sessions with 2 or 3 therapists before I found someone that I said, oh, this is someone I want to see for some time, right? To work through whatever touch needs that I have, right? But I as I do sessions, I myself still go for a professional session simply because after holding space for people for a while, I just need to be held, and I need somebody else to be able to hold that space for me. And that's just kind of part of self-care that I do. So But when I find someone, it's always a process. I mean, in my case, I had to try out a few people first to do that. So that's a good um, so that's a good kind of way to go. Uh, so I'm there's so many places where people advertise themselves as cuddlers. So and there are websites where you can go and find them, but just because you found them on a certain website does not mean that they're good.
Sure.
You do have to ask questions. You do have to take advantage of any consult that they have. Ask them what their training is. All of
Yeah,
those
we did
things
a
are
whole
important.
episode on how to find the right therapist for you. And
Mhm.
yeah, I definitely hear that. There are plenty of therapists that are, on these websites right next to other therapists that maybe shouldn't be there. But, that's a conversation we had on another day.
Mhm.
But Nate, before we head out of here, do you have any calls on the line for us?
Yes, we have a couple of callers. Mike has been very patient with us, and I wanna thank Mike. Mike's calling in from Wisconsin. Pronouns are he, him, and Mike, what did you want to talk to us about today?
Well, this is the first time I've called into any of the ACA shows, and I'm a little nervous, but
It's okay, man.
Oh,
We're glad
okay.
that you graced Secular Sexuality with your very first ACA call.
It's learning how to set boundaries, follow through with them, and it was made painfully clear to me during my last relationship that I'm lucky I got out of that. I need to learn how to say no and basically stand up for myself, not only from my family, but also from any partners that I end up getting into. I am a member of the LGBTQ group as well. And it's, like I said, it was found painfully clear to me that, Any helpful advice?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
So just to clarify, you're looking for advice on just how to maintain boundaries in relationships?
Yeah, and any helpful advice on how to get better at saying no in relationships and personal issues. So,
Sure.
So, cuddle therapy is actually ideal for this, but in particular, cuddle party is really ideal for this. If you have any cuddle party events happening near you, I would highly recommend that you seek them out, check them. It it seems very repetitive because every time you go to a cuddle party, you're saying, why do I have to sit through this 1 hour workshop around boundaries, consent, practicing how to say yes, practicing how to say no? And then after that, during the cuddle time, it almost seems completely ridiculous because we're asking all the time, would it be okay if I touch you here? Would you like to be touched there? Would you like your hair to be? And you're constantly asking, and somebody can say, and what we try to tell people is maybe that's not what you are going to do in a normal relationship or a course of it, but we want you to take that time, the 3 hours that you're there, to practice doing that because it shows a certain amount of respect for the other person when you say, would you like this type of touch, and allow them an opportunity to say yes, or would you like this? And um, and you will find just doing that alone greatly increases your boundaries by itself. Just practicing that because simply people realize, no, this is not just somebody who's just going to come to me and hold my hand or hug me or whatever. It's somebody who asks for it, ask for what they want, which also means that they expect that I would do the same, right? And these, so it's something that I would highly recommend you to find. If you have a cuddle party anywhere near you, do that. If you don't have a cuddle party facilitator near you, you can go to a cuddle therapist and essentially work through exactly these types of things. I want to be able to have better boundaries around touch, or whatever things that you may want to. But it's actually, the thing is, learning learning about consent and boundaries kind of go together, because you're asking for consent, which actually means you're honoring some boundaries, and it also means the other way around, that people are going to come back to you and honor your boundaries as a result.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in real quick before Christy totally upstages me with his amazing advice that he always gives. It's true, Christy. Mike, one thing that has worked for me in the past and works equally well with family and with romantic partners is just stating how their behavior has made you feel, not in an accusatory way, but like, hey, well, when this happens, I feel this, and I don't like feeling this. And then if it happens again, just kind of like, well, again, this is when you raise your voice at me, I feel attacked. I don't like when someone raises their voice, or when you bring up great Aunt Karen, I feel like I'm on the defensive already. So is there a way that we could, structure this conversation in a way that makes me feel comfortable? And then once you've sort of made that clear, Mike, once you've made that clear, their reaction and whether they choose to respect what you've just told them is going to tell you a lot about how constructive this is going to be for you in the future. You can't pick your family, so you're kind of, you can, your family are the people who are good to you, right? So it's harder with family is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. You can, but especially with a partner, you absolutely should be able to set those boundaries. And if your partner cares about you, then their reaction to you saying, hey, I'm feeling this, that's going to tell you whether they really care about you and where you ought to go from there.
One thing before Christy jumps in with his ever wise wisdom.
Yes.
Yesterday was a pretty painful issue for me. I just found out the full extent of just how homophobic my mother's side of the family is yesterday. And had to, through my therapists that I have, through my doctors that I have, which are really good doctors. They're not really trying to push religion on me and everything. They're very secular. They work through all their issues, in a meaningful way. But it was a very painful day for me yesterday, considering it was the fact that I had to cut the side of my family that raised me for 18 to 23 years. I'm 32 now. And I came to the conclusion that it was for my own sanity, social, being, and my mental health that I can't interact with them anymore due to the fact that that side of the family is very Catholic, very religious. And when they found out just what I am, that I'm gay, the Shiola hit the fan.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I hear that you are working with a therapist, and that feels huge. I also hear that you are noticing that these are patterns of things that you've sort of allowed in the past, and that's not your fault. And I think that that's worth really underlining. At the same time, you can begin to take back some of your life by being willing to let people know when they're crossing those lines. I really liked some of the language that Nate was modeling, and I think you'll find a lot more of that type of language in a book called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. I really want to recommend that. I think it is a great insight, and it'll empower you not only to yourself communicate in ways that are more kind and that are less filled with anger, but it'll also help you to notice forms of coercion or pressure or what Rosenberg kind of blanketly calls violence in your life, and just becoming aware of those pressures so that you don't have to rely on like your own resentment or your own aggression as an indicator. You can actually have some insight into why does this bother me so much. It's because you're being like pushed or prodded or cajoled in these ways that are maybe subtle and socially acceptable, but that are violating your boundaries. So I would really encourage you to take a look at that. But more than anything, I think just being willing to notice your own language. If you get into a abusive relationship, there is such a temptation to kind of put a veneer on it. And so if you find yourself talking to your friends or to the family that you are able to have healthy relationships with, or to anybody in your life, if you find yourself describing your partner relationships in sort of like the best possible light and sort of like fudging some of the details and maybe sort of glossing over the timeline and just finding ways to try and make them look good that aren't entirely honest, that may be a really good sign that there are forms of abuse here that you are perhaps not ready to confront. And so I would really encourage you to just be transparent with the people around you and to be curious and to notice when you're not being maybe as honest with the people in your life as you could be.
And I want to say that with this last relationship that I just got out of, I'm lucky I actually got out of it. Considering the history that I found out after my partner was arrested, that they have quite the checkered long rap sheet that they managed to hide from me that was made aware of after the fact. I am, basically everything you just said I was doing with my family, just kind of glossing over the details, making it look all nice and sunshine and daisies, and I didn't really notice or didn't want to notice everything that was going on. It was a very nasty relationship that I am very thankful I got out of.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear it. And you should know that there is no timeline on your healing and that there is no quota on the person that you're becoming. There's no expectation that you never, ever, ever, ever get taken advantage of again. Certainly, we hope the best for you, and we hope that you find relationships that are empowering and fulfilling. But I don't want you to walk away from this situation feeling as if, well, I will never let that happen again. Because in some ways, sure, perhaps you could have protected yourself from these situations, but also probably you couldn't. And there's a certain randomness to all of this. And I would hate for you to take somebody else's abuse as your fault or your responsibility. Those actions are not yours.
Yeah.
Wise words.
And
Wise words.
Yes, thank you for that wonderful advice from all three of you tonight. And just listening to the show tonight, it's kind of hitting a little bit more home and opening my eyes up to what I need to do to help take care of myself. And with the help that I'm getting from my therapist, and I've been working with, I'm also in I'm a veteran. I'm an Army veteran, and I'm the VA is the one that's helping me with my therapy, and they've been very, very helpful the last 10 and a half years. And I'm finally getting to the point now where I'm starting to realize some of the stuff that's been going on in my life and learning how to, what's the lack of a better term, work through it. And I'm finally now trying to get myself taken care of. I'm working on myself versus sacrificing myself to help everybody else in my life while neglecting myself. That's basically what I was doing a lot. And between that and the abuse that I suffered growing up and with the relationship that I just got out of, I need time to work on myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And one gay veteran to another, there's no point where you're ever going to be fixed, but there is going to be a point where you feel ready, if that makes sense, like there's no, so just try to go with that. And Mike, we do need to wrap up here, but I hope that I get to talk to you again. This is, as you said, this is your the maiden voyage of your ACA Colin experience. So yeah, you can hit us up on the Discord. You can call in.
I've been listening to a lot of the ACA shows for years, and between Aaron Ra and Matt Dillahunty, they helped me become a atheist. It took me like 3 or 4 years of just watching all their content, actually thinking for once in my life instead of being told what to think.
Yeah, being shown how to think.
It's a journey.
Aaron Ra is great. I haven't heard of this Matt guy, but Aaron Ra is great. I kid. All right, Mike. Well, I want to thank you very much for calling in today, and again, hope that you're feeling better. I'm glad to know that you're seeking help, and you take it easy, man. I hope we talk to you again soon.
Thank you, folks, very much. It's been a very wonderful evening chatting with you three.
Yeah, have a great night.
All right.
Thank you. We're getting a little bit long, Nate. Do you think we can sneak in one last call?
Oh, I saw Kaylin, and they have been waiting so patiently. I feel like we need to get Kaylin in here.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Kaylin is calling in from Canada. Pronouns are she, they. Kaylin's looking for some tips on maintaining intimacy with a partner that is away a lot. And I really wanted to get you in here, Kaylin, because this is something that I can probably throw you a couple of good nuggets here. So how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm good. Thank you so much. I'm also a first-time ACA caller, so.
Wow. Well, we are just gathering a new flock here today. And I also saw that you are a fellow Canadian, so welcome as a Canadian myself. Yes. So glad to talk to you. Okay. Intimacy with a partner that's away a lot. My own partner and I work opposite shifts, and I travel for work sometimes. So tell me what your situation's like.
Okay, well, he works away a lot. Like, he's only home for like 4 days a month. And so his love language is definitely touch. Mine is not. And I'm the main caregiver of our 3 kids. And so I find myself touched out a lot. And so on the, 4 or 5 days when he's home, he wants to be intimate, and he's really patient and kind with me and doesn't push me. And I know he wants sex or some kind of intimacy, and I can't always do it. And honestly, I find like doing the way I can is to drink a lot of wine first, and then I'm happy. It's fine. It's all good. But that's like the only way that I find I can actually be intimate when he's home, because I don't feel emotionally connected, and I just when I'm not emotionally connected, I just have really zero interest. We'll stay up talking till 2 a.m. and having a lovely time when he's home. And we're both happy with that. But I know he needs more physical touch, and I know he needs sex. So.
Right. Do you think there's maybe ways you could maintain a more emotional connection while he's away? Maybe that might increase the connection that you feel when he's there?
Yeah, we've tried send a little text every now and then if you're thinking about them, right? Or and phoning in the evenings is often really difficult as well, because Like I'm a master's student. I'm working on my degree, and so sometimes I'm doing schoolwork in the evenings, and he works until 7 or 8. So like I can't, it's hard to get that time in the evenings to even talk when he's away.
Yeah, that's tough. One thing that my partner and I do, aside from just texting each other when you're thinking about them, is ask for a picture of where they are right now, or ask for something that connects you to where they are and what they're doing, if that's possible. I don't know what your partner does, but that really helps for me to see what my partner is seeing, and especially as a man, who we tend to be visual. So, show them what you're up to. It's not just about the text. It's about something that's a little more tangible and might sink in a little bit more.
I like
Maybe that might help.
yeah.
Christy, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess I just want to say that, yeah, this sucks. Like I know
It
part
does.
of me
Yeah.
wants to be dismissive, but I'm hearing that he's home 4 days a week and that you are raising
No, a month.
children.
4 days a
A
month.
month.
Right.
Yeah, a
No, I'm
month.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. 4 days a month, and that you are raising children in large part by yourself while also
Yeah.
being a master's student. And I just want to say that that's always going to be a hard situation. Now, I'd love to offer you some tips and tricks, and I'll certainly do my best, but I would hope to empower you to remember that this was always going to be hard. And the fact that it's hard does
Yeah.
not mean you're doing a bad job. I would hope that we can offer some insight that might make it a little bit easier. But the fact that there's a struggle right now does not mean that you are messing up or making a mistake. It just means that this is a really challenging circumstance. So it makes sense that it's difficult. It makes sense that you're both feeling perhaps a little bit frustrated or unsatisfied with the way things are. I hope that, whether
Yeah.
your program ends soon or that his job changes or whatever else, that y'all are able to find a circumstance that's a little more conducive to the intimacy you're both craving. But I guess I just really wanted to start by emphasizing that this is not the sign that you're doing a bad job or that you haven't read enough Cosmo magazine tips and tricks for how to keep things hot or whatever, because this was always going to be difficult.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Brilliant. Sundeep, we are over time, but is there anything you wanted to add in here?
Not in particular. I don't have anything. One thing I will say is,
yeah.
so I'll just only say one thing, is that if anybody sees a cuddle therapist, it's not always necessarily a one-to-one. So couples can actually go together to a cuddle therapist and do this specifically to work on boundaries together, or to work on ideas together, or to work around issues of touch. How do two people, for two people who are partners, what can they do? How can they touch each other so that it is more enjoyable for both of them? What are, so people can certainly do that as a couple, and our therapist will see someone with that.
Yeah, that communication piece seems key to me as well. You're saying that he is looking for perhaps more touch, you feel touched out. Perhaps that means that you can do things where he feels touched without you having to feel touched yourself. What I mean by that is, like, rather than spooning, perhaps it's something more like massage, where you're using your hands, whereas he's feeling touched with his whole body. I'm also hearing that he is perhaps craving sex that you don't necessarily feel comfortable or available for. And that's completely valid. But I also can't help but wonder if perhaps you might be more available or more interested in that type of sexuality if he was approaching it in a way that met your needs, in a way that honored your need for emotional connection. So I don't want to come in as a stranger on the internet and find out, 45 seconds about your relationship and then pretend that I can fix everything. But I would hope that
Yeah.
because people so often are uncomfortable or perhaps even unwilling to talk about sexuality, that perhaps a little bit of explicit communication here could be part of a comprehensive solution, letting him know what a roadmap might look like. People so often think that in order for sex to be real or good or meaningful or purposeful, that it has to be just purely organic, that it has to just like spring forth from the ground, fully formed and ready to go, when most of us need a little bit more intentionality. And if he is approaching you in ways that aren't necessarily meeting your needs or getting you excited, perhaps you can let him know what a different approach might look like, to give him a roadmap, so to speak. If you want more sex, I need you to X, Y, and Z. If you want more sex, I need you to sit down across from the kitchen table and have a conversation with me first. If you want more sex, I need you to kiss me first, or make these types of requests of him and give him a little bit of a roadmap of what you're looking for. Now, I won't pretend that fixes everything, but how does that idea resonate for you?
Oh, it really does. You're right. Like, I feel like, it's supposed to be organic, but I know he's totally willing to sit down and have that kind of a conversation. So I think that's probably a good first step for us.
Yeah, I hate that people feel like sex doesn't count if you talk about it first. Like, you are supposed to just be so consumed with passion and so much on the same page that everything will magically fall together. And we've spent the last hour and a half talking about something as simple and gigantic sarcastic air quotes for the podcast audience, something as simple as cuddling, when in reality, there's so much value in going through the communication. I mean, Sundeep laid it out for us. That hour-long workshop beforehand might be, seemingly unnecessary, but actually going through the motions of having that conversation can empower you in so many ways. So if you really wanted to dive into it, Sexual Intelligence by Marty Klein is a bit of a tome of a read, but it will give you incredible skills for how to communicate about these things clearly. Otherwise, it might be worthwhile to just think to yourself, well, what would it take for me to want to have sex more? Not how do I force myself to have sex, but what would it take for me to want to have sex more? And if you have an answer to that question, perhaps you can share that answer with him.
Yeah, I really, really love how you worded that. That's really resonating. How do I want to have sex more? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope
Brilliant.
that helps. And definitely talking to a professional, whether independently or together, could be incredibly useful. So I definitely want to recommend, if you feel like this is something that's going to be challenging to get over, that you perhaps work with a therapist or something along those lines. But again, I'm hoping that this is a short-term season in your life, because this was always going to be hard. And the fact that it's hard does not mean you're doing
Yeah.
a bad job. It just means that it's hard.
Yeah, we were hoping this ends next April, but it'd be really nice to make things better in the meantime.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, we certainly wish you the best of luck. And, depending on how that conversation goes or whatever else might come up, please shoot us an email or give us a call or whatever else. We'd love to get an update.
Really, really appreciate that, and really enjoyed listening to your conversation on cuddle therapy too. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It sounds like you very much have your hands full, which does not surprise me in the least bit. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Caitlin, thank you for calling. Yes, amazing. Oh, Christy, such great advice all the time. I love it.
Well, I am very lucky and thankful to have both of you here. Sundeep, it's been great talking with you. As we're getting a little bit long on the night, where can people find you online and just learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, so I am on Facebook. You can find me You do look for Mindful Touch. Mindful Touch has a page on Facebook. All of my Cuddle Party events I put on Eventbrite. I have that Eventbrite link up there. There is also a meetup group called Cuddle Party Austin, where me and another facilitator in Austin, we both announce our events. And my email address on that slide. So you can certainly reach me at any of those places. And if you go to Mindful Touch, you can also call me. There's a phone number on the Mindful Touch Austin webpage.
Cool. Mindful Touch with Sundeep Arole. This was a great conversation. And it's another one to scratch off Christy's secular sexuality bucket list. But folks, this is not the only amazing atheist community of Austin. The atheist community of Austin has an entire family of programs that you can access through a one-stop shopping spot at tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. All of our shows are on there. There's a lot of good content, including one with that Matt guy that Mike brought up. Look us up there. We also are available if you want to look us up on Facebook. If you want to continue this conversation, we have a secular sexuality fan group for fans, by fans. All of us are there. Hop on in, drop us a line. We have a lot of fun. There's also, if you want to stay connected, we're going to be in the ACD Discord. This is the official, unofficial Discord community of the ACA. We're going to be on there for a quick after show after. So look us up, folks. Again, it's tiny.cc/ACD Discord. If you love the shows, if you love us, buy some merch. Buy a t-shirt, get a bumper sticker. You too can wear this swag. Look at that mug. I've got to get myself one of those. But yes, tiny.cc/merch ACA. And last but not least, the fabulous, wonderful, altogether stupendous people that actually make this show happen. The three of us sit up here and we talk and we take calls, but these wonderful humans in the background, they are the ones that do all the actual work, except for that one in the top right. I don't know about him. He's a little shifty, but the rest of them are great, folks. I swear. He knows who he is. He knows who he is. But yes, thank you, crew. And thank you, Sundeep. This has been a great episode.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Nate.
Absolutely. It's great having you both here. And I suppose, we're a little bit long tonight. So if you want to catch us in the Discord, you may have to hurry. But this is a great opportunity to give yourself a big old orgasm. Or better yet, give somebody else one.
Okay. Sure.
Watch The Atheist Experience live Sundays at 4:30 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTAXP and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callaxp.